Hi everyone, welcome to Women with Books. This is your regular host, author Lindsay Emory. I felt like I had to introduce myself this week because this is part 2 of a very long conversation of an episode where I gave my friend, author, mermaid podcast host, and entrepreneur Laura von Holt the control of my podcast. She interviewed me about my latest release, The Royal Runaway, and about lots and lots of things. Hence, two-parter episode. So if you haven't heard part 1, go back and listen to that. And if you haven't read The Royal Runaway yet, we took great care not to spoil anything. At least, I hope we did. Thank you all for a great release week and for supporting Women with Books. Here's part 2 of my interview with the fabulous Laura von Holt.
Right. I mean, James Bond is sad when his girlfriends die, because they always do. But it's not like you're not really seeing that relationship in conjunction with the rest of the story. And so when she said that, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm kind of intrigued with that possibility of writing I'm watching Jack Ryan right now on Amazon with my husband. And I'm kind of like, I would really like it for his epidemiologist girlfriend to come with him.
Yeah.
And she, they're fighting something and they're working. She's using medical knowledge and he's using CIA analysts. I'm like, now I have to write a fanfic about that.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm just thinking this podcast is called Women with Books. So obviously we are pro-women on this podcast. And one thing about having adventure with romance is that I've noticed with your heroines is that it really gives the women an opportunity to, prove their mettle, but also kind of expands their worldview and their view of themselves. Like with Princess Thea, even though she's been jilted at the altar and it's like horribly embarrassing and totally confusing, and she's like, I don't know what to do with my life, but it gives her an opportunity to reconsider everything that actually matters to her. Did she want that big fluffy white wedding dress, royal wedding stuff, or does she really care about being a leader? Mm-hmm. And I've seen that in other parts of your work.
What kind of person does she want as a partner?
Right, exactly. And what partner actually makes sense for her. Exactly. Which you're like, that's actually a hugely important question. It's not just like, do they have the right pedigree, but like, as a modern ruler, who's going to make sense for you and what your role in the world is. And also, it's a really good consideration of what the changing role of a royal person is in the modern era. Like, they really have to be, it's not just like, I throw a festival so you don't revolt. It's like they really have to be advocates for their country and their culture, and they have to really be, even more so, I think, working on behalf of the people just as much as a government official.
Right. Yeah. And I couldn't ignore, those modern realities.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to say, like, there's talk about whether the country should be a republic or not, whether they should do away with the monarchy. I mean, I think in any thoughtful person's world that's going to come up.
Yeah.
And that's what going back to what I talked about, like the waste of a royal wedding. And she even goes back and forth. She's like, yeah, it took a lot of money to throw that, but how many tourists do we bring in?
Right.
So there's all of that that I throw in, but I mean, it wasn't like conscious. Like, I'm not trying to like write like a thought piece on royal monarchy. I was just trying to like do my best to be like, okay, I'm recognizing that this is complex, and this is all the stuff that Thea's considering too. Like, this is who I am, and I can't walk away from it, but neither can I ignore that it's not really like a 21st century gig.
Yeah. Totally. Okay, so I want to switch a little bit to the mystical now, because we talked about the practical realities of the royalty. But one of the fun things in the book is that you have a court astrologer who becomes very integral to like many mysteries, which is really fun in a like a Rasputin type of way, But so Sybil is a court astrologer who I think was very integral to Thea's mother.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, and she becomes kind of an ally in a lot of their adventures. So it was very cool to have like that mystical element. And I liked it because knowing you personally, I know that we both like tarot cards and we use them a lot in our creative process. Yes. So I wanted to know, like, when you were writing the book, was like tarot or astrology, like, were you consulting anything for yourself? And then did it dictate anything that happened in the book? Or was it just like a fun element to play with?
I think it was just, I'm trying to remember. I think it was just a fun element to play with. I had this image of Sybil and like how I don't really. That's interesting that you bring that up. I don't really remember how Sybil came about. But obviously she came from my subconscious somewhere. And at the very end, you know, I did have to do some research because actually the conversation she has about a character's astrology, that is, I think, accurate.
Okay.
It's accurate. I mean, it's close. I mean, because I had put something in there, and I think when I was editing, I was like, I want to make sure that this is right. So I did kind of construct. I think I did.
You did like a birth chart for someone?
I didn't do a birth chart.
Okay.
I looked up. Oh my gosh, I looked up something like, what are the most common signs for serial killers or something.
Oh, really? Oh my god, that's fascinating. Like, is there? Oh my god, that's amazing. Like,
yeah.
Which zodiac sign is like has the most serial killers associated with it?
Because astrologists have done like Hitler's and like all these other things. So I think I went through some of those and I picked ones from each of them. I was like, so this guy's a Leo, and then this guy has like Sag, right? I mean, I don't remember what it was,
right,
but I kind of like,
I
kind of looked it up and was like, okay, if you're a sociopath, you might have this symbol and you might have this moon, or I mean, I forget what I wrote, but yeah, I did do some of that research, and then at the very end, there's a mention of a tarot card, and I actually got that inspiration because I do Pinterest boards for all of my books, and I really do use them as a tool while I'm writing. I mean, I do it at the beginning, and then as I write, I kind of pull in other things, and I make it so that if I'm trying to get in the mood for writing, I just have to open up a Pinterest board, and I could get sunk into it really quickly, visually.
Cool. Okay.
And so I think I did a search on Pinterest for like queens or something, and I got a pin for a Queen of Swords card.
Ooh, okay.
And I put that on my board, and I'm not even sure I knew where it was going to fit in. But so that Queen of, and I'll put this is interesting. I'll put some of these up on my blog or something. You
should, because I want to know about it.
Because then I describe that Queen of Swords card at the end of the book when it comes into play.
Yeah.
But
well, I also liked it because, like, I feel like the idea of a court astrologer feels very, like, you know, like, scientific method. And so it seems just full of, like, you know, what people would consult just to make themselves feel better about some big international choice. But what I like about the role of the court astrologer in this is that you realize what an intimate knowledge they have of the royal family, not just because they've like done all their charts and are like, this is, you know, what the stars influences on you, but also that they have like heard some of their biggest problems and worries, and so they have almost like a therapeutic role. So I liked seeing that recast. It's not just like, I'm come in my turban to like tell you not to invade France. You know, like, it's like I've actually like legit been here through like all of your marital difficulties. I've been here through the birth of your children. I've like forecast what their lives will be because I am an intimate of you and because I care about the family as well. Yeah. I think that's just interesting, but also some mystical. So I always have to get into mermaids because my podcast is the Mermaid Podcast, and you write mermaids, and I write mermaids, Madame de Boudoir. Yes, as you'll recognize from season 1 of the Women with Books podcast. So, and one of my favorite things about having so many writer friends is that when I read their books, they'll mention something, and then I'm like, oh, a mermaid could totally go there. So Julia Kelly has some cave in her upcoming book, The Light Over London, that like I'm claimed. Like I just want to, it's like I want to hang out with you so much in real life that I also have to like write myself into your worlds so that I can like hang out with you in my imagination as well. So just for, I'm going to be reposting this on my podcast. So for your listeners and mine, I did have a mermaid idea for you because I was like, the only thing that's really missing from all of your world building is we have all this history, but we don't have as much mythology. So I was like, oh, it's okay, Lindsay. I thought of it for you.
Okay, you know what? I just got an idea too. So you tell me your idea. And
okay, so
they might be the same one.
This is my same idea. And like, maybe at some point if we get it together, we could like co-write a like bonus mythology scene from like a history book. So my idea is like, because the island of Perpetua is just so interesting as far as like having like women, but also it's an island with like craggy shores and like, I think you have to scale rocky cliffs at some point, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So I totally think there's like some like mermaid sailor legend. Maybe it relates to like the pirate queen and the Portuguese or something. But I totally think there's some like mermaid legend off the island of Perpetua. And like I could almost imagine like a queen who's locked up there for like years, like, thinks she sees mermaids and then becomes like a mermaid scholar, or there's something where like, the sailor is like in the maritime industry, whatever their view of mermaids is would be important. I feel like they're very practical because sometimes mermaid legends for sailors are like, it's a bad omen, they're going to lure you to your death. But the Druidish seems so practical to me that they would have a very much like, oh, if there's a mermaid, there must be fish around because she's also hunting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it would just be like a very practical mythology.
Yeah, they're not going to be too worked up about it.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Storm's coming, mermaids are coming in.
Yeah, exactly. They're like...
Yeah, no, I was thinking too, it would have, any mermaid story would have to be around Perpetua. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I explained in the book is that Perpetua was founded during the Holy Roman Empire. It was a convent. Mm-hmm. And so, you could even go back that far, like nuns who are on this island. Why are you putting nuns on islands? What are they doing there?
Yeah, what are they doing? What are they doing on islands?
I don't know. They're looking after misbehaving princesses. Yeah, that's probably what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Who are sent there, but maybe they're also working with mermaids.
They totally are, or maybe some of them are like part mermaid. Like they just kind of go back and forth.
Can I tell you a secret about Perpetua that's not in anything yet?
Yes. Oh my God! Okay. Exclusive to the podcast. What's the secret?
Okay. It's not really that big a deal. Okay. But I know I think I might mention it, maybe. There are hot springs under Perpetua.
Okay.
With like caverns. And I have like this scene I want to put in under Perpetua, but I have not been able to figure out how to write it yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the type of person, well, I am, but I can't figure out how to like get some people underneath the island to make out.
Okay.
But anyway, that is going to happen one of these days. So that's like either a sneak peek into my brain, or we'll use that in our story.
Yeah, totally. Oh, there's like caverns. Are there any like ocean entryways? Or are they just like underground caverns? Like when people go like spelunking, what's it called? When people go like cave
I think
diving?
You can go there on the beach. It's basically like where Wonder Woman and what's his face, like totally. He gets out of the tub. Yeah, that's basically my idea.
Yep, got it. So there's like some entryway from land, but also there could be like a crack in a rock kind of thing where if your boat like got thrown up against it, you could go in there and
And you find yourself in a mermaid harem or something. I don't even know.
Or like there could be like troll, like there's a lot of legends you could go. So I think this is great. I definitely feel like if at any point you get stuck and you don't have a dead body or kissing, I would just recommend going full mythology.
Going into the mermaid. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just, for book 2 or 3. Which, speaking of which, I don't know if you can talk about, but like, are we hoping for more in this world? Yes. Okay. That's a loaded yes. Without announcements.
I know. I need to figure out where we are on all that.
Okay.
But, yes.
Okay, great. So,
yes. A lot of readers and bloggers who have already read the book have reached out to me about this, and I think people said something like, is it too much to ask? I'm like, no,
it's not too much to ask.
It's not too much to ask.
Okay.
But, of course, the best way of making sure you get more Perpetua and Dryden is to tell your friends to buy the book.
Tell your friends to buy the book and leave Amazon reviews clamoring for book 2.
Yes, that would be good, too.
That would be good, I think. Or just email your publisher directly as well.
Her email is.
Okay. Okay, so I feel like what we should move on to, I wanted to talk to you about planners because we both really like planners, and it's just one of my favorite things about you is how good you are at planners.
Okay.
But I
have it right next to me.
Yeah,
right
great.
now.
So I just need everyone else to know that listens to this that Lindsay and I both love planners, and we can talk to you about them all the time. So
Sure.
like, if you guys like planners, send us pictures of your planners. I feel like Princess Thea definitely has a planner, and I would like to see her planner at some point.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I want to know what her planner is. Really into it. I don't know if she's like a Bujo girl or if she's got like washi tape. Like, I don't know what her preferences are, but she's got a lot going on.
Has an assistant.
Oh, that's true. Do they have a planner?
Loose, and I did kind of briefly. I think I mentioned it's like a throwaway. Like, it's a leather bound book. Lucy has the fountain pen, fountain tip.
Yep.
And but I think that as Thea comes more into her own, she will definitely be taking on a lot of her own planning. Like she has Lucy, who is her assistant, and that's really important to her. But she's also had a job. She's been to university. She knows, she's done it before. But then I think when she like settled into like princess mode, she might have handed it off a little bit. But she's definitely going to be like taking charge and starting to write her own journals and stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Okay, so I should probably also ask you, is there anything that you're reading currently that you want to recommend to your listeners?
Oh my gosh.
Did you not prepare? Did I spring this on you? Oh my god, Lindsay, I'm so sorry.
No, this is like what
this is what other people feel like.
Yes. Oh, why did I do this? Why do I do this to people? I'm sorry to all
Do you want me to talk about what I read?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I will, because so I will tell you, I listened to your interview with Penny Reid, and my little sister, shout out to Melly, she loves Penny Reid too, and I finally got into the Winston Brothers series. So I just read book 1 a little while ago, which I loved, and then I just read this past week book 2, which is the one with Jethro the ranger and oh my god, what's her name? Sienna, the movie star, comedian, actress, writer. And I like laughed and like highlighted lines, and
isn't it good?
It's so good. So I definitely recommend that one. And then this other book was floating around on Twitter by Charlotte Stein, and it's called, I think, Never Sweeter. And I saw the premise for it, and I was like, because it says something about a girl and her her high school bully, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But then everyone on Twitter was like, no, trust us, it's not what you think. And I read it I'm a night owl, but I stayed up until 4 a.m. on Saturday night reading this book because I couldn't put it down. And it's like so emotional. It's a girl who had this guy who like teased her a lot, and there's one very traumatic incident, and they end up at the same college, and they're paired on a film project, and the thing that's beautiful about it is like you think that he's like an enormous jerk, and but he does the whole book is him like groveling and him like telling her how much he realized what a jerk he was. And you kind of never get that in real life, like a guy actually being like, everything I've done was wrong, it's totally my own fault, and you don't need to play any part in my redemption, I have to figure it out for myself. So you get this like kind of like amazingly romantic speeches from him as he's like trying to constantly apologize for what he did, and then it turns into this like beautiful college romance, which made me be like, I'm sorry that I went to Sarah Lawrence College, which is like all women, or 75% women, and it made me be like, I so regret that I like didn't have more men at school, because like they're like making out in her dorm room watching Dirty Dancing. Like, he loves Dirty Dancing. Like, once he said he loved Dirty Dancing, I was like, there might be hope for this character.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I loved it, and it's just so emotional, and Charlotte Stein just does such a wonderful job of writing the intricacies of like, especially like, early 20s like emotions and like your first big relationship, but also like, coming to grips with like the stuff that we deal with in high school and the people that we are in high school, and how we get to change when we are finally out of that environment and get to be our own people. But watching the two of them navigate like their past, and watching like in this current culture, watching a man actually come to grips with what he's done was like so healing. I bet it is. Yeah, it was like, oh, that's what it sounds like when someone takes accountability. So for that reason, I loved it. Plus, like, Charlotte Stein, I think Damon Suede gave some props to her on your podcast about the way she writes sex scenes, and they are like, I mean, I think I'm going to buy the hard copy so I can highlight it as like a masterclass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So those two I read recently. I also read Tessa Dare's Do You Want to Start a Scandal? And which was just always delightful because Tessa Dare is always delightful. And then I read... Hold on, I'm just checking my Goodreads because there's one more that I was like, wait, I know I want to talk about this. I read something... Oh my god, what was it? It was... Oh, man. It was really good.
I'm looking at my... No,
yeah,
I'm looking
at
my Kindle. So here's the deal, though, about me. And I kind of talked about it before. Is that I read a lot and then I don't sometimes. But what's happened a lot this summer and what's happening now with regards to fiction is that I have like a bunch of books I'm like halfway done with, because I will start one and then because I do the podcast, I also like to read my guest books, so I go back and forth a lot. Right. And that's one of my main not regrets, but I wish I need to get that into place somehow, because I love reading, I love immersing myself in a book, but doing the podcast too, I'm kind of a little jumping around. Yeah. But especially with fiction, and then with fiction too, is I'm really careful about when I'm writing and reading fiction.
Yeah, that's tricky.
And I can't really even say, it's not that I can't do it, but I just, especially if I'm reading someone with like a really strong voice or something, I kind of back away from it. But I did recently finish the Kate Daniels series by Ilona Andrews.
Ooh, always good.
So Magic Triumphs was, awesome, because everything they write is, but I think for me it was also frustrating because there's going to be more books in this series. Oh. And so, not in the Kate Daniels series, like spin-offs. Yeah. So it just made me want those more. So it's frustrating in that I'm like, I see it. I just like I want more. Totally. But I just finished a couple of really good nonfictions though. What is it? Who Thought This Was a Good Idea by Alyssa Mastromonaco, I believe. It's really adorable. It is a memoir of President Obama's deputy chief of staff.
Oh, yes, I heard of this.
And it's a memoir, and it's supposed to be more for like a late teen, college age kid, but of course I loved it. Because she's like my exact age, so all of her memories about 80s and 90s. You know? Yes. Like, all of her references about like being in college and being in flannel and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I would have loved this book as a college student or in high school student who was interested in government, who was interested in political science, because it's the story of a girl who worked her way up and became hugely influential in a administration in a country, and she's just really, really, it's written in a very accessible, interesting way. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm probably going to recommend it to a lot of my friends whose daughters might be a little bit older too, because it's a good book for them. And then I also finished I'm going through like a phase, maybe it's because of all the politics I've been watching, but I've got like a whole stack of White House Washington books, and not any of the ones that are just coming out. Like I'm going back a few years for whatever reason. I just finished I think it was called First Wives, First Ladies, First Women. Yeah. By can't see it. Anyway, it's a nonfiction about First Women by Kate Brower Anderson, The Grace and Power. Anyway, and it's kind of Kate Anderson Brower, and she's written a couple books kind of about the inside stories of the White House. So she has this one, and I have her other one too. I'm going to read. Because I'd really love to write a story about the West Wing or East Wing one day. Yes. And
so many kissing and dead bodies.
But I'm really afraid that if I did it right now, people would be like, satire, or she hates, the country or something. And I don't know that the time
gotta pick your moment. Gotta pick your moment.
Either the time is perfect or the time is really wrong.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those two things for the world to have a Lindsay Emory White House novel.
If you start writing it now, it will come out later. And then also the other thing that I think that we have learned in the past 2 years is that normally when you would write a book, someone would be like, that's preposterous, that could never happen, and that actually rule is dead now for fiction. I think if you're writing about the White House, because everything preposterous has happened so quickly.
And that's the thing is that every time I go, Lindsay, it's not really the time to be writing a story about the White House and mysteries and people kissing there. Then I think, well, when I wrote The Royal Runaway in 2016, I didn't know that there were going to be two royal weddings when it came out. So what if I go ahead and write that book and somehow get people to say yes to it?
Yeah.
And then by the time it comes out, we have a totally new situation and everyone is hungry for a White House romance.
Yeah. I mean, Lindsay... I just think that I think like the astrologer, you are subconsciously forecasting things. So I feel like you should just, I would like to see what you did with that.
If my agent is listening right now, her head just exploded.
I know, totally. Just set it in a fictional country. Just set it in a fictional country. Lindsay solved it. No problem.
In Canada.
In fictional Kanashtia.
There is a president.
There's a president.
I love it. Yes. You heard it here. It has nothing to do with the United States of America.
If you want Lindsay to write this book, please tweet her at Lindsay Emory or go to her website. All right. I feel like we need to wrap up. I know you usually do a lightning round, but...
But you said you had questions from people. Did we already answer
We answered all of them, actually, because
okay,
we all have the same questions, so I just kind of covered them all.
It was please tell her how do you pronounce these things.
Yeah, basically it was pronouncing those things, how do you keep track of your world, let's talk about grumpy cops.
Okay, yeah.
Those were all the questions. Let's see if I can, maybe I can do your lightning round from memory. Milk or dark chocolate?
Dark.
Ooh, arms or abs or chiseled jaw?
I like them to have arms.
Forearms, I think.
I think forearms. Forearms are the best part of the arms.
Which wedding would you rather go to, Meghan Markle's or Princess Eugenie's?
Well, I mean, Meghan Markle's has already passed.
I know, but still.
I always have a soft spot for any children of Sarah, Duchess of York.
I mean, because she's going to be the most amazing mother of the bride. I feel like the thing about Meghan Markle and Harry's wedding is there was this huge hole left by Diana, and you're going to get the opposite at Eugenie's wedding, where you're going to have like give no farts Sarah Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, she's the one you would want to sit next to.
Yeah,
and be like, all right, girl, tell me what's up.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, oh, let me tell you.
Yeah, let me tell you. So then there's the thing where it's like, oh, if you're going to buy a book, is there a beach chair or abs? Which one do you buy?
Oh, lately it's probably been more of the beach books.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, there's one more question. Oh, do you turn to the back of the book first or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, do you like how I listen to you so much that I just know those questions?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
It'll be really interesting to see if other people who are listening are like, no, I know those. If you were screaming at Laura during that and want to correct her, go to her Instagram or Twitter. Are you Laura von Holt?
I'm Laura von Holt on Instagram and Von Hottie on Twitter.
And tell her I
messed up the lightning round. Doing. I did not prepare adequately as your celebrity stand-in. I did not prepare adequately, and there's no producer to tell me I'm wrong. Well, Lindsay, I think this has been I'm just commend myself and you. What a great interview.
You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Those were really good questions.
Thank you.
It's very interesting to talk about my book in a deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
With someone who hasn't read it 6 times. Yeah. I mean, you've read it once.
Yeah.
I'm assuming just once. Maybe you've...
1.5,
probably
I think.
Once. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, because the only other people I can really talk to about it are, my agent and editors, and they have all read it 6 times.
Totally.
So we talk about it on a different
A different level. Yeah.
Different level. But it was really interesting to do that, and it was hard to not give spoilers away.
I mean, it is hard because it's a mystery.
I think we were good about that.
I think so. I think we talked around it enough.
Because I could tell like a couple times we were about to go,
yeah.
That's really important.
Really, I could only talk about like the first third of the book and then a couple stuff in the middle. And that's it.
Right. And
there's a lot more.
God, you gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Well, I want to make sure everybody, let's tell them what to do. So you guys listen to this podcast. Now what you need to do is, no matter when in time you're listening to this podcast, you should go buy Lindsay's book. You can go to her website, lindsay.emory.com. Also, this website for this podcast is womenwithbooks.com. If it's before October 9th, you can pre-order, which is always fun because then like on the release date, you're like, zing, the book's magically in my Kindle, or it's mailed to me now. Yay. But you should also leave a review and tell her publisher that you want book 2, because the people have spoken. And even though Dreden has royalty, America is a democracy and you can vote. So get out the vote for book 2, and also go call your senators and tell them your opinions.
Yes. And not about my book. That might confuse them.
Yeah, sorry. About any opinions you have.
Yeah, don't call your senators on foreign relations.
Be like Princess Thea and advocate for yourself and for your country.
Oh.
Yeah. You're welcome, Lindsay.
That's deep, man.
Deep.
Okay. You are such a good friend for doing this. I want to thank you.
It's been my pleasure. You can listen to my podcast at mermaidpodcast.com.
I do listen to your podcast.
Thank you.
I do. And I think I'll be hosting, we're going to be doing a special crossover with, you interviewed I
interviewed Imogen Hermes Gower, which is a very British name, and she's British. We did talk about some royalty too, and she wrote a book called The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, which takes place in London in the 1700s.
And how many copies of that book do you have now?
3. I made very good friends with the HarperCollins publicity department, and now I have 3 copies, and I'll be doing a giveaway, so follow the Mermaid Podcast on Instagram.
Seriously. Yeah. They don't give me free copies. I mean, I've gotten a few, but they're not sending me 3 copies of books. What are you doing over there?
I think I got in on their mermaid and their folklore lists, so I'm just rolling in the books now. Rolling in it. Yeah.
You might want to share that with your people.
Yeah, I'll share that with my people because I got mad copies.
Thank you for joining us today. I started this podcast so I could have the conversations I wanted to have about books. And by listening, you're part of the conversation too. Contact me on our Facebook page or on any of my social media accounts at Lindsay Emory if you want to talk some more, or sign up for my fantastic newsletter. And please leave me a review. It helps other listeners and readers find us. 5 stars if you love books. Thanks, and keep reading.